obviously the run game really got going in the last game. How do you feel about that your group played, especially in the second half?
It's good. Like whenever you run the ball that efficiently, it's always an 11-man operation. We talk about the line of scrimmage being from sideline to sideline. So receivers did a great job finishing downfield. Obviously, we had a three-headed attack with Talon and the two running backs. So everyone was all in on just making the run game be really efficient in the second half. So it's fun to see those guys not only work really hard, but get excited. You know, when you see a receiver get really, really excited when there's a big run and he's blocking late in the play, that's always a lot of fun.
How much easier is it? You guys at one point in the second half ran the ball 16 straight times. When your guys know, hey, we're just going to run block, for the next little bit. I mean, how much easier is it for them to get comfortable?
It's like everything's rhythm. Like we always talk about rhythm and getting in flow. And however we do that, when you're in rhythm, you feel it, right? And you can come off the ball with a little bit more confidence, and you can get your feet in the ground and be violent with your hands. So whether it's running the ball consecutively and getting in a little rhythm or doing a good job mixing up from run to pass, as long as we're in rhythm, our guys can play confidently. They can be very, very efficient. So that's our big job as coaches is how do we create that rhythm, and how do we not have to wait to the second half to get into rhythm? How do we not wait to have to hand the ball off 16 times to get in rhythm? Because sometimes that's going to be too late. Like, sometimes we're not going to be able to wait to the second half. So how do we start the game fast, in rhythm, in flow, and it starts with our week of preparation. So we're trying to create rhythm today for game day. We're not going to wait till game day to get in that rhythm. We're not going to wait for a halftime speech, halftime adjustments to get in rhythm. We have to start the game in rhythm, and then we'll make adjustments as we go. But that's the big thing, is to starting fast, is to starting kind of in rhythm. I think I just said rhythm 25 times. So it's more than we handed the ball off.
You said last week about maybe kind of trying to simplify things, against San Diego State. And Dirk said that, I know he's probably being a little facetious or whatever, but you guys ran on the same 5 plays there for a little while. How much did that kind of maybe help your group, and did you simplify it for them?
That's like the burden as a coach. As a coach, we watch tons of film and we're all the time, and we're trying to create plays, and we're trying to make plays for our players, and we know how hard those guys work. So we're trying to do everything we can to put them in the best position. Sometimes that's just keeping it really simple and allowing them to do the same thing over and over again. So that's always the battle as a coach, is keeping it simple where those guys are able to kind of go execute their fundamentals and techniques, but also give them enough in the scheme where it creates a little conflict for the defense.
I saw that, on the sideline, OJ, I mean, your whole group there early in the fourth quarter, they're smiling. I mean, it seems like they're as happy in game as they've been probably all season. What did you see out of that? And if that was the case, how rewarding is that for your group?
Yeah, it's good to see those guys smile, because again, they work extremely hard, and they want to win so bad, and they want to be successful so bad. So it's good to see those guys have that feeling of success, and they've been good all year on the sidelines, trying to stay positive and create good energy. So it's time for them to kind of take over. That was the situation in the game where it was time for those guys to kind of take the game over, and they answered the challenge, they answered the bell. So I was really excited for them to be able to do that.
You're obviously closer with Tim. How hard was it to see him pulling down last week?
Yeah, I mean, Tim, love the guy. Like he's not here anymore. He's not part of the team. We obviously want the best for him, but like we're moving forward and focusing on this next opponent in Fresno.
On a personal level, though, I mean, this happens in the coaching business, I guess. But I mean, you guys go way back. I mean, how does that make that any tougher? You're going on, and he isn't.
That's the thing with coaching. Like, it's part of the profession, and it's really hard when you lose people that you're close with. But that is the nature of the profession, is to have turnover. And my little brother played at a big time Division I school, and he had 5 position coaches in 5 years. He had 3 head coaches. It's like, that's just, when I talked to him about it, he was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. Like, the guys in the locker room, that's not a big deal. That's just, unfortunately, it's part of where college football is going. Look at it right now. Like, there's coaches, really, really good coaches. Wisconsin just fired their head coach. That guy is an amazing coach, a really, really good coach. So there's really, really good coaches all over the country that aren't sticking with their schools for whatever reasons, and that's just part of the business.
What have you learned from Dirk Cutter as far as coaching the O-line and just having him in the building and his experience? How's that helping you?
I try to watch Coach Cutter and everything he does. I try to watch to see how he eats his lunch, like how he works out. Like, I'm trying to just soak up everything I possibly can from him. And then he's been obviously great just because he's worked with really, really good offensive minds. on just the little fine details of coaching offensive line. So I'm trying to soak up everything I possibly can from him and give that information to our players.
If you had like 2 sentences, how would you describe rhythm?
Rhythm. It's being able to react and play without thinking. That's when you're in rhythm. You think about someone playing a musical instrument, they're not thinking about each chord. They're just jamming. They're just rocking out. So that's what we want our guys to do. We want our guys just to be able to communicate the line of scrimmage, get in a great stance, and then come off a ball and just rock out and just play and not think.
How sustainable is, running the ball 16 plays in a row or having all these, 6-1, whatever it was, run to pass ratio in the second? I mean, is it, Air Force does it, so maybe it is, but I mean, you guys need to be able to show that you can pass the ball as well moving forward, or can you just do what you did in the second half the rest of the season?
We always want to be balanced. But again, like the curse of a coach, if something is working, let's not overthink it. You know what I mean? If something is giving us success, then we don't need to change it. So when we construct our game plan, it's not like we're constructing our game plan and there's 20 runs and 2 passes. It's a balanced game plan. And as we get in the flow of the game plan, as we get in the flow of the game, we see what we're having success with, and we try to stick to those sorts of calls and plays.
The way Dirk was talking about the offense is like, hey, we've got our some of our RPO stuff. We've got some play action stuff. We've got some read option. And it was like the first half, it was like he was trying out a lot of different stuff. And then when the read option stuff started to work, it's like, let's just stick with that. Is that what you go into a game with? Is like kind of some of these ideas and see what's working early on?
Yeah, because it's always like a guessing game. So we're going back and we're studying film as how is the defense going to defend Boise State? Maybe different than last week. And this is a new defense that we're playing, so we can't go back and watch last year's film. And this defensive coordinator wasn't coordinating last year, so we can't go back and watch who he was coaching on defense last year. So we're trying to speculate on how they're going to stop us, and we do that by self-scout and see what we're doing well. Obviously, if we're doing something well, the defense is going to try to take it away. So we have to have answers for something that we're doing well and have that kind of next step to try to stay ahead of the defense.
What did you make of their loss to Uconn? Not a lot of people saw that coming. You watched the tape, I'm sure.
Yep. So, again, college football, 50% of the teams lose every Saturday. 50% of teams. So it's that simple. So, and they had a long trip going across country, and they're trying to figure out their quarterback situation, and they've got some injuries on defense and their safety. So, it's college football is extremely hard to win football games. Like a lot of things have to go right to win football games, and just because there's an opponent that may not have a bunch of wins or is low ranked, like those guys are still working and practicing and game planning and grinding and working out and doing everything they possibly can to win that game. It's not like they see someone on the schedule like, oh, these guys are better than us. We're going to roll the ball out there and they're going to get after us. They are grinding to find a way to win, and they were able to do that. So hats off to UConn.
What impresses you about Ashton?
He's a guy that allows us to get into rhythm. And again, he's one of those great energy, great smile, great vibe. The moment's never too big for him, so he prepares really, really well. So he's a fun guy to have just back there because he brings a lot of juice, a lot of energy, and he kind of acts like he's an older guy. He's kind of got that experience, that aura about him, where he doesn't shy away in the big moments.
On that touchdown, I mean, Andy's talked about mentality for a long time. On his touchdown run, you guys work at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if you remember the play specifically, but if you do, what about that play?
That was symbolizes the game. It was not perfect by any means, right? Little footwork errors, little targeting issues, but mentality. That was a perfect representative mentality. Guys were coming off, they were finishing blocks. Ashton was finishing the run. If you look at everyone had made their mind up we were going to score, and they believed that, and they were able to come off the ball. Not just oh yeah, let's score, we want to score, but in their soul and every fiber of their being, they knew we were going to get this ball in there, and it showed up.
How have you thought Will's played at center, taking over for Cage?
That's a tough spot, and all off season we're talking about Uconn, what he brings to the team and how good he is and his leadership roles. So there's the physical part of having to replace KHG, but then there's also just all the intangible things that people don't see. So just his command and his leadership, and he's done a really good job stepping up, and he's an awesome guy. Will's been playing, he's from Texas. He's been playing football since he could walk. So every time I talk to him, he's like, hey, I've been doing this forever. This is just something it's like riding a bike. He knows how to do it at a high level. So I've been really impressed with just not so much his play on the field, but just all those kind of intangible things that he brings outside the field.
Your thoughts on, we haven't talked to you in a little bit, Roger stepping up against UTEP. How did that come about, and what did you think of Mason returning last week?
Yeah, it's always extremely tough to play true freshmen, especially at the offensive line position. It's just extremely hard to do. So we were just in a situation where we had to figure out who the 5 best guys were, and Roger was that guy, and really proud of him just being able to step up in that role. That's, again, extremely difficult position, and luckily we have the red shirt rule, so we can kind of see how it goes for the rest of the season. It's not like we burned his year yet, and we can kind of make those decisions at the end of the season, seeing how many games he gets up and playing. But he's going to be a really good player, and he's a guy that's we're really excited about, just to see him grow, and that was a good part of his growth process, is getting all those game reps.
Mason missed a few games. What did it take for him to fast track back to playing last Friday against San Diego State?
So like Mason and Roger, very similar. Like, we think they're going to be good players, so we're trying to like develop them, not so much for this year, but for next year. So again, last year we're kind of developing Mace the whole time and trying to get him ready, and he's a guy that's takes great notes and is super diligent in meetings, and is preparing, and he knows like he's missing reps. As a young guy, reps are crucial, so he's trying to make up for all those missed reps with extra meeting time and film study and getting right off the field.
Blocking for the read option. How is it different? How is it easier to coach? Like, it seems like, because the line doesn't know who the ball carrier will end up being at the end of the play. So how do you teach that to them?
Don't overcomplicate it. Don't keep it as simple as possible. Get our feet at the ground, play with vital hands. So there's a couple of things you can do with having 2 guys block 1 guy, and if the defender runs with the 1 ball carrier, you have the tight end blocking him, and if he stays with the other ball carrier, you have the offensive line blocking him. So there's a bunch of different ways to manipulate protecting those guys on who has the ball. The biggest thing on anything is like getting that initial push, especially with our guys carrying the ball. Like, if we can get that initial knockoff, we get the second defender, like that will kind of work itself out. So that's what we have to just continue to emphasize, is that initial push, that initial knockoff to get those backs started.